Hey.
Are these your drawings?
What? No,
Oh,
no.
they're good.
Hey everybody, this is Perch, and here's a mail that speaks my language, at least something that I've been thinking about recently too. It says, hey Perch, as you noticed, with the new Spider-Verse film on the horizon, social media has once again made Miles Morales a talking point, and not in a good way, which of course leads to a massive discourse between Miles fanboys and Miles detractors, and it's as frustrating as ever. It's not as frustrating as ever. It's much, much worse, in my opinion. But let's get into it. It says, I've grown really, really sick of the discourse, especially when the whole nobody likes Miles argument gets brought up, ignoring that the character had a hit movie, having the Spider-Man title helped a lot, of course, having a best-selling spin-off from Insomniac's Spider-Man game, a best-selling YA book. I mean, okay, you were doing well, and then we hit there, and having a pretty successful 2019 to 2021 comic run, which debunks that argument. For what it's worth, your first 2 points are pretty solid there. Your second two, not as much. The comic run, the Saladin Ahmed run, did pretty awful. I mean, just for what it's worth, it did not do great in sales wise. But I think your point still stands, and I think it's a correct one. But let's finish up with the mail. I've also seen people use the whole nobody gets butthurt when people criticize Peter Parker as an argument that I feel is disingenuous, considering how frequently Miles gets targeted compared to Peter, especially as part of the culture war narrative. This discourse is way beyond beating a dead horse, becoming a chunk of skeletal remains at this point. I mean, this lasted, 10 years already? Can we just move on? Sorry for the long rant. I hope you and your family are doing well. Merry Christmas. Take care. Thank you very much. I hope you have a Merry Christmas too. And all good. So, Miles Morales. So I mean, this is one of those arguments. It's a bit of a phony argument because what people are arguing about is largely pointless. And when I say pointless, I mean the crux of the argument is Miles Morales is Spider-Man. No, Peter Parker is Spider-Man. That's the argument. And that is a stupid argument because in all fairness, Marvel calls all kinds of shit Spider-Man. Check out the Spider-Verse right now. We've got Spider-Man all over the place. None of this makes any sense at all. Has any kind of logic? Has any kind of value? It's a stupid argument. You could argue this very effectively both ways. You have to get over kind of the ideology part of it. But here's an example. Miles Morales is definitely Spider-Man. Why is he definitely Spider-Man? Because Marvel calls himself Spider-Man. He has vague spider-like powers that are mostly like Peter Parker's, except maybe a little better because he has electricity shock things, but he's also younger, which means he's dumber at Spider-Man. But he's definitely Spider-Man because we say so. I mean, okay, Marvel gets to pick. They're the ones publishing the title. They're the ones who own the character. They can call him whatever they want. They could call him the mighty swinging butt man, and that's their right to do that. Now, watch this. Miles Morales is definitely not Spider-Man. There's only one true Spider-Man. That's absolutely the right answer because Peter Parker was Spider-Man first. Therefore, Peter Parker is always Spider-Man. Miles Morales came later. There's still Peter Parker swinging around. So therefore, there can only be one Spider-Man. Miles Morales is not Spider-Man. Forget about Green Lantern and all the other kind of shit where you've got multiple characters with the same title. It's all fine. Peter Parker, Spider-Man is an individual solo character's name, not a legacy name. Therefore, you can't have both characters have the same name. Therefore, Miles is not Spider-Man. Okay. At the end of the day, pick whatever side you kind of feel vaguely attached to and go with it. My argument in all this is, Marvel can call Miles whatever the hell they want. It's their right. He does have spider powers. Sure, that makes sense. But at the end of the day, I think that calling Miles Spider-Man, the biggest The biggest harm in all this is to Miles. Miles is the one that suffers the most, not the fans, not Peter, not whatever Spider-Man is or isn't. So Miles is I think it only hurts Miles long term, and I think it only hurts Miles because it's confusing. I think that people do, whether you like it or not, no matter how socially justice minded and free spirited you are, Miles. People are going to look at Miles Morales and go, well, "That's not Spider-Man. Spider-Man's kind of a geeky white guy, and this guy's a younger black guy. That's not Spider-Man." That's what the majority of normies will say, no matter how hard you try, and you could spend the next 20 years pushing and investing marketing dollars into pushing that angle. It doesn't matter. It's all going to wind up in the same spot. Miles is a newer character. I think if you were going to, look, put it this way. I think that in order to get the pop culture, the masses, the citizens, the civilian, whatever it is, in order to get them believing that Miles Morales equals Spider-Man, you are going to have to invest a ton of time and years and money, most importantly money, in marketing this as the case, marketing Miles as Spider-Man. You could take that exact same time and money and market him as, I don't know, Ghost Spider or whatever. Who the fuck knows? Hell, Miles seems to be a name people are going with. People seem to like Miles Morales as a name. You could market him as Miles Morales. You don't even have to call him anything. You could do a storyline where he reveals his identity. It's like, I'm Miles. Who the fuck knows? You could do whatever you want. But the point is, you could spend that same time and money and promote Miles, and you get to a better spot, actually. You get to a more popular place. Calling Miles Spider-Man, it feels like you're trying to prove something to someone, and in reality, that is what's happening. The creators and the company are trying to prove. They basically are fixated on one thing, and that is, I guess imaginary black kids can be Spider-Man too. And if that's the hill you want to die on, again, it's your company, it's your dollar, go nuts. I just think it's a kind of a waste of time and money to even try. Why would you bother? Look, if you basically spent the next 20 years all in on Miles, he is Spider-Man, we're going to do all that kind of stuff. Forget Twitter. Twitter is getting in there, and they're doing Laura Kinney is actually Wolverine, Miles Morales is actually Spider-Man. That's nice, and that may make you feel good, but these are weirdos. Half of them are bots. These aren't even real people making these statements. They don't matter. None of this stuff matters. Look, if you can spend that money trying to convince Miles Morales is Spider-Man, you're just annoying the shit out of everybody. And everybody, like this letter, like this discourse of who is Spider-Man, Miles or Peter, it's a stupid argument. For, I don't know, how long now? For 60 years? Peter Parker has been Spider-Man. Miles has been Spider-Man for 10 years. If you want to spend another 50 years trying to prove the point, I guess you can. It's Marvel's money. It's your dollar. Be my guest, but that feels like a super waste of time. Any way you cut it, it's a waste of time from a product standpoint, from a marketing standpoint, and most importantly, and this is why when I see a lot of the arguments come up about, the comic companies are trying to secretly plot diversity and all this kind of stuff. If that was true, I have to believe they'd be doing it more competently than this. This is dumb. This approach is one of the most loser approaches I've ever seen in my life. It doesn't get anybody anywhere. It just annoys the shit out of all of us. Again, maybe I'm being too harsh here, but I don't care. I see these arguments like Miles is Spider-Man. No, he's not. Peter Parker is Spider-Man. I'm like, you know what I would like? A good fucking Spider-Man comic with anybody in it. You could put Spider-Ham in there, and I would like to see that. This is a distraction argument for losers. Complete loser. Now all the people who like posted comments without listening to video, or like listening to the first 2 minutes of video, or trying to rapidly edit that post. It does this argument. When I say it doesn't matter, I mean it doesn't matter from Marvel's standpoint. If you're a fan who's been collecting Peter Parker Spider-Man, I get why it matters to you, because you've been collecting this character, this title, this mantle for a long time. I totally understand why it matters to you. You have my sympathies. I get it. I get your perspective. I don't get Marvel's perspective. This seems like a dumb fight to fight. Here's the newsflash: people like Miles. The movie was successful. The character has a decent design. They finally have gone back to the kind of black and red costume instead of that weird hoodie shit that was nobody knows what the fuck they were thinking there. But anyway, they have the character looks cool. If you have a character that looks cool, is generally enjoyed, people generally like Miles. The character is it's bankable. It makes money. Why are you fucking around trying to argue he's Spider-Man over Peter? Like, what? How does that benefit you? If I was the manager, if I'm the CB Cebulski of that company, I would sit down with the editorial team and I'm like, what is our goal here? What are we trying to achieve? What are we trying to do? Because right now we're making life harder on ourselves by trying to trying to fuck around with this name. It doesn't, none of this brings us money. None of this brings us value. None of it brings character recognition. In fact, it's anti-character recognition, because now we're trying to kind of tell people there's two Spider-Men simultaneously. We've got, look, the Sony's going to keep cranking out these Spider-Man movies for another 3. They've got the kid signed 3 years, and he's white. He's not Miles Morales. So, I mean, what are we doing? We're hoping to make, these movies, we kind of want to make $1 billion a piece. So this is a $3 billion bet that Sony is making on, Peter Parker as that Spider-Man. And meanwhile, we're also making these cartoons called Into the Spider-Verse. This would be a terrible idea, but if I'm CB Cebulski, I'm like, why don't we call the character Spider-Verse? And somebody would say, well, that's a terrible fucking name. It's like, yeah, it is a terrible name, but people seem to know it because we had that movie Into the Spider-Verse. Like, fuck it, let's just call him Spider-Verse. And somebody's like, well, that name makes no goddamn sense. Like, well, you're correct, but I don't know, screw it. Let's just call him that anyway. Like again, these are dumb ideas, but not as dumb as trying to push two brands simultaneously, and not as annoying. I'm sympathetic to letter writer of this entire argument. By the way, I could argue just as passionately that a lot of the comic fans should just fucking forget it at this point. You're not winning. There's no battle to be won here. And one of the dumbest arguments is Marvel doesn't get any of my money. They're a bunch of assholes. And that's why I'm really passionate about Miles not being called Spider-Man. I'm like, what? You're not passionate. You're not giving them your money now. You stopped funding them. What? Your passion, you no longer have dollars in this equation. Your passion is done. Nobody's listening to your passion. You're not funding it. Doesn't matter. You could say he's not a Spider-Man. Sure, but at this point, who cares? Okay, now I've got to reverse track a little bit because everybody's like, Perch said, who cares? Why doesn't he care about the SJW? Like, look, it just doesn't matter. Marvel owns that character. Marvel's making a dumbass decision, and it is a dumbass decision to try and pursue both characters simultaneously. It's weird. It's cost reductive. They're taking money out of their pockets. If you are really irritated and been out of shape about this whole Peter Parker Miles Morales thing, here's the way you go to sleep at night feeling good. Marvel is absolutely screwing themselves without you being even involved. Marvel is absolutely taking money out of their own pocket on this crusade of who the fuck knows why they are doing it. Nobody understands. It makes no sense. It gives them no money. It is actually hurting their bottom line. And they're engaging in this every day. If you hate Marvel, that is good news for you. Because they're screwing themselves, so just let them do it. Just leave them to their work. That's where it's at. I've talked about this in videos before. I don't get why they do this. It's a bad strategy. Even any junior level marketing, MBA, hell, go hire Deloitte, McKinsey, whoever. Everybody will tell them this is a bad idea. You are hurting your brand. You're hurting your revenue potential. This is dumb, what you're doing. You have a win. People like Miles, you no longer need the crutch of calling him Spider-Man in order to be successful. All you're doing is hurting yourself. That's the truth. And we're annoying everyone. And as we annoy them, keep in mind, we're chasing customers away. Not because of Miles per se, but this entire argument. Everything about this is chasing people away. Hardcore comic fans and even normies who do not want to really get into the geeky complexity of why we have two Spider-Men, like none of this helps anything. Anyone would tell you that. But here we are. Again, it's Marvel's dollar. At the end of the day, you could be really pissed about it. It's certainly your right, but it all heads to the same place, which is nowhere. Thanks for listening.